Let's be honest, folks, international relations haven't exactly been a walk in the park lately. It's enough to make you wonder if someone swapped out the world leaders with toddlers who just learned the word no. But here's the kicker, it's 2025, and things haven't exactly calmed down. We're diving headfirst into the geopolitical mosh pit to examine 10 Asian countries that, according to some very loud whispers, certain people wouldn't mind seeing the back of. So buckle up, kids, as we unpack the political baggage and try to figure out who's on the guest list, who's getting kicked to the curb, and most importantly, whether anyone remembered to bring the hummus. Spoiler alert, diplomacy these days is looking awfully dry. Let's get started. China. A nation of ancient history, delicious food, and enough economic clout to make even the most seasoned capitalist weak at the knees. So, naturally, it only makes sense that someone would decide the best way to interact with them is by starting a trade war, right? Fast forward to 2025 and those tariffs are about as common as those targeted Instagram ads for weighted blankets. It all started with whispers of unfair trade practices, intellectual property theft, accusations flung faster than a hot wonton at a soup dumpling eating contest. The thing is, while both the US and China are busy trying to outmaneuver each other on the global stage, the rest of us are just trying to figure out if we can still afford our morning soy lattes. So, what does this mean for the relationship between the US and China? Well, if we're being optimistic, maybe they can finally agree on a good couples therapist. And honestly, someone should really check on the global economy. It looks like it needs a hug. Next up on our geopolitical world tour is Iran, a nation with a history richer than a Shah's jewel collection, and a relationship with the US that's, well, let's just say it's complicated. For decades, the US and Iran have been locked in a staring contest of epic proportions, with nuclear programs and sanctions serving as the metaphorical eye drops making everyone's eyes water. Throw in years of sanctions that have crippled Iran's economy and left its people struggling, and you've got a recipe for tension that could curdle even the most diplomatic of stomachs. Until then, it seems like the US and Iran will continue their delicate dance of distrust, with the fate of the Middle East hanging precariously in the balance. And now for our next stop on this geopolitical roller coaster, we arrive at North Korea, a nation that has perfected the art of keeping the world on its toes. Led by Kim Jong-un, a man whose haircut deserves its own international relations summit, North Korea has become synonymous with nuclear threats, missile tests, and enough propaganda to make even the most seasoned spin doctor blush. The US, for its part, has taken a firm stance against North Korea's nuclear ambitions, a stance that mostly involves a lot of strongly worded statements and enough sanctions to make even the most hardened dictator consider opening an Etsy shop. The problem is, North Korea seems to view these sanctions as less of a deterrent and more of a challenge, like a "you can't stop us" note scribbled on the back of a missile launch announcement. Maybe instead of sanctions, the US could offer North Korea a lifetime supply of Dennis Rodman's friendship. Chapter 4: Pakistan, a partnership plagued by paranoia. Hold on to your hats, folks, because we're about to navigate the turbulent waters of US-Pakistan relations. A relationship that's more tangled than a plate of unattended spaghetti at a family reunion. On the surface, the US and Pakistan are allies, partners in the fight against terrorism and all that jazz, but scratch beneath the surface and you'll find a whole lot of mistrust, suspicion, and enough historical baggage to make a baggage handler weep. The US has long accused Pakistan of playing both sides, of harboring terrorists while simultaneously accepting billions of dollars in aid. It's going to require open communication, a willingness to address past grievances, and maybe, just maybe, a shared therapist who specializes in international relations and the delicate art of untangling metaphorical spaghetti. Chapter 5: Afghanistan, a withdrawal and its uncertain aftermath. Afghanistan, a nation scarred by decades of conflict, caught in the crosshairs of geopolitics and home to some of the most resilient people on the planet. The US, for its part, has had a long and complicated history in Afghanistan, one marked by military intervention, nation-building efforts, and more recently, a chaotic withdrawal that left many questioning what it all meant. The withdrawal of US troops in 2021 was meant to signal the end of America's longest war, a turning point in a conflict that had claimed countless lives and consumed trillions of dollars. But the withdrawal was marred by chaos and violence, with the Taliban swiftly seizing control of the country, leaving many Afghans who had allied with the US fearing for their lives. The US must grapple with the consequences of its withdrawal, the legacy of its involvement in Afghanistan, and its responsibility to the Afghan people. Chapter 6, Syria, a nation in ruins, a world divided. And now we turn our attention to Syria, a nation embroiled in a brutal civil war that has become a microcosm of the complexities and tragedies of the 21st century. The Syrian civil war, now in its second decade, began as a peaceful uprising against the authoritarian rule of Bashar al-Assad, but quickly spiraled into a multifaceted conflict, with various factions vying for control, each with their own agendas, alliances, and backers. The US, along with other Western powers, has supported the Syrian opposition, providing them with military aid and calling for Assad's removal. However, the situation is far from black and white. Russia, a staunch ally of the Assad regime, has intervened militarily on behalf of the Syrian government, further complicating the conflict. The images coming out of Syria are heartbreaking: bombed-out cities, millions of refugees displaced from their homes, and children who have known nothing but war. Chapter 7, Iraq, picking up the pieces of a broken nation. Hold on tight because we're heading into the heart of the Middle East, a region that's been a geopolitical pressure cooker for decades. And at the center of it all, Iraq, a nation grappling with the ghosts of war, the weight of sectarian violence, and the ever-present threat of instability. The invasion of Iraq unleashed a torrent of chaos and violence that continues to plague the country to this day. Iraq is still struggling to rebuild its infrastructure, heal its societal divisions, and establish a stable and functioning government. It's a stark reminder that the road to peace is often paved with good intentions, unintended consequences, and the enduring resilience of the human spirit. Now let's turn our attention to a corner of the world that's often overlooked, a place where suffering has become so commonplace that it's almost faded into the background noise of our collective consciousness. Yemen, a nation ravaged by a brutal civil war, a humanitarian catastrophe of unimaginable proportions, and a stark reminder of the human cost of indifference. For years, Yemen has been locked in a bloody conflict, a proxy war fought between Saudi Arabia and Iran, with the Yemeni people caught in the middle. Imagine, if you will, a country where bombs rain down from the sky, where hospitals and schools are targeted, and where millions face starvation and disease. The conflict in Yemen is a humanitarian catastrophe of epic proportions, often dubbed the Forgotten War because it rarely makes headlines. It's time to shine a light on this forgotten war, to demand an end to the violence, and to provide humanitarian assistance to those in desperate need. Fasten your seatbelts, folks, because we're about to delve into the tumultuous world of Lebanese politics, a world where alliances shift like the desert sands, and where even the most seasoned analysts struggle to keep up. Lebanon, a nation known for its stunning beauty, its rich history, and its unfortunate tendency to find itself at the center of regional turmoil. But beneath its vibrant facade lies a nation grappling with deep-seated political divisions, a crippling economic crisis, and the ever-present threat of spillover from its war-torn neighbor, Syria. Imagine, if you will, a country where the government is paralyzed by gridlock, where the currency is in freefall, and where basic necessities like electricity and clean water are scarce. The situation in Lebanon is a cautionary tale, a reminder that even the most resilient of nations can be brought to their knees by a combination of internal divisions, external pressures, and a healthy dose of bad luck. And for our final stop on this whirlwind tour of geopolitical hotspots, we arrive in Myanmar, a nation where the dreams of democracy have been crushed under the iron fist of military rule. Remember those brief shining moments when it seemed like Myanmar was finally emerging from decades of military dictatorship, when Aung San Suu Kyi, the Nobel Peace Prize laureate, was released from house arrest and democracy was on the horizon? Well, those hopes were brutally dashed in 2021 when the military staged a coup, seizing control of the government and plunging the country back into darkness. Imagine, if you will, a nation where soldiers patrol the streets, where dissent is met with brutal force, and where the hopes of a generation have been extinguished. The military coup in Myanmar was a stark reminder that the path to freedom is rarely linear, that progress can be fragile, and that the thirst for power can corrupt even the most noble of ideals. The people of Myanmar deserve to live in a country where their voices are heard, where their rights are respected, and where their dreams of a better future can finally be realized. So there you have it, a crash course in the complex and often disheartening world of international relations circa 2025. We've explored the tangled webs of alliances, the simmering tensions, and the seemingly insurmountable challenges facing some of the most volatile regions on Earth. But amidst the chaos, amidst the headlines that scream of division and despair, it's important to remember that there is always hope. Hope for a future where diplomacy triumphs over aggression, where cooperation conquers conflict, and where the human spirit prevails. So, I leave you with this. What role will you play in shaping that future? Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more updates.